Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the hosts side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
Welcome to Remote Reality. This is Lauren. Hey, Channel Surfers. Today we're going to be watching A Deadly American Marriage. It's a new documentary on Netflix from 2025. Murder or self-defense? It's told from both sides. This documentary explores the killing of Jason Corbett during a dispute with his wife and her father. We start off in a residential neighborhood with well-manicured lawns. There's a golden, sunlit road. It's November 8th, 2023. There's an empty car with black seats. A girl with a white turtleneck gets in, and a boy with a sweater and collared shirt buckles his seatbelt beside her. Her name is Sarah. She has tears in her blue eyes. We're taken back in time 8 years to Thursday, August 6, 2015. We see Sarah as a child with blonde hair pulled into a ponytail and a blue dress. She's being interviewed about her dad's death. Then we see a boy named Jack sitting beside her in the car. We're taken back 8 years to his interview. He says his dad's name was Jason Paul Corbett. His mom's name, Molly Martins, and his grandfather's name, Tom Martins, but they call him Grandpa Tom. We're at the Davidson County Courthouse, back in the present day. Sarah, Jack, and another man sitting in the back exit the vehicle. We're taken to an aerial view of a neighborhood. It's August 2nd, 2015. The houses are lit up in the dark night sky. We hear a 911 call. Grandpa Tom is calling from Panther Creek Court. The man sounds very calm. He says his son-in-law got in a fight with his daughter, and he intervened and hit him in the head with a baseball bat. We hear someone scream help. Grandpa Tom can't tell if his son-in-law is even breathing. We see Wanda Thompson. She's a detective. She tells us she gets a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's out the door. It's nothing good. We're taken to Meadowlands, North Carolina. Oh my gosh. There's blood splatter. We're taken into the residence with investigator Wanda, and it is a gory scene. It made me shriek when I saw it. There is blood splatter everywhere. She said it was horrific. Then we see a picture of Molly. She's wrapped in a dark fur shrug and has a blue shirt underneath. She looks like she's crying, and it looks like somebody hit her in the face. The victim is her husband, Jason Corbett. We see Molly and Grandpa Tom now in the interview rooms talking to investigators. Molly said she was fighting with her husband because their daughter had a nightmare, and she woke him up. And that made him very angry. He hit her with his hand and then choked her. When he let go for a second, she was able to scream. Her dad came in. We go to Grandpa Tom. He said he heard arguing and thumping on the floor, and it didn't sound good. We see a baseball bat and a brick from the crime scene pictures. The brick is bloodied. The baseball bat sits against a chest of drawers. Tom asked Jason to let his daughter go, but Jason started to drag her to the bathroom, so he hit him with the baseball bat. We then go to Molly, who's explaining at that point Jason got the baseball bat. She thought her dad might have missed, so she hit him on the head with the brick. We're seeing the brick from the murder scene. It's a gray brick, but it's coated in red blood and black hair sticks to it. Tom says he can't say how many times he hit his son-in-law or how many times he was shoved. We're back at the very gory crime scene. There's blood splatter all over the place. The victim has horrific injuries, but Grandpa Tom and Molly, they don't appear to have any injuries, even though they were in a fight for their life. The investigator asks Molly if she realizes her husband did not survive his injuries. She starts crying. They had been together for 7 years, and she explains that the children aren't her biological children. His first wife died. Molly says she's scared of his family. She's afraid that they're going to take the kids from her. She was legally married to Jason, but she did not adopt the children. The investigator tells her that it's a real possibility that Jason's family could take the kids. She doesn't have any legal right to these children. She was their stepmom, but custody could go to the grandparent as the next of kin. Then we see blue water and tall cliffs. White waves crash against the cliff. We're in Ireland. This is the day after Jason's death. Tracy, Jason's sister, says that her brother got a call that Jason was dead, that he and Molly had gotten in a fight. She couldn't comprehend it or process it. We see pictures of her and her brother from years ago. He had a really big family, and the 3 youngest children were Jason, Wayne, and Tracy. When she heard the news, her first concern was Jack and Sarah, and within hours, she was on the road to America. She and David Lynch were named as guardians for the children. The detectives explain that they've been meeting with the district attorney, and this case isn't going to be the same as most of their cases. Grandpa Tom, well, he was an FBI agent, retired FBI agent, in the criminal division. He's attempting to control the narrative during the interview. He's had a lot of experience with these. This is his career. He continues to try to explain what happened, and the investigators are not believing it. The investigator learns that Molly's mother was in the basement. She says she woke up when she heard the scream, but she rolled over and went back to sleep. An investigator wonders what grandmother does that. MS personnel are suspicious about the 911 call because in the 911 call, you can hear them counting 1, 2, 3, 4 for CPR compressions. And EMS says that wouldn't usually happen. They wouldn't be able to do CPR effectively and count like that. We're back in the neighborhood from the opening scene. A car is driving through it. We see two beautiful children, Sarah and Jack. We see pictures of them as kids. Their aunt wanted to hug them. They had lost their father, but Molly wouldn't allow it. Jason's brother and sister both wanted to see his body, but they wouldn't let her see it. And Molly was trying to cremate the remains. The autopsy findings were horrific. Oh my gosh, I don't want to see photographs like these. I don't even know if I can listen to it. He had so many blows to his head that the pathologist couldn't count them. When they start to show this part of the crime scene, I have to turn away. It's horrific. There is blood everywhere, and they're scrolling the camera down a wall, and I had to turn my head. I did not know what was on the other side. Jason's sister says that his children were just feet away in the bedroom when his life was taken from him. Jack and Sarah were asleep when this occurred. They had to get special people to interview the children, people that are trained in interviewing small children. So the interviews we saw from the beginning are from the Children's Advocacy Center. Jack was age 10, and he explains that his sister had a nightmare because his mom told him that. Sarah, age 8, says she never saw her dad hit her mom. 10-year-old Jack said he's seen his father physically and verbally hurt his mom. And the person questioning him says, "You saw that?" And he said, "Yeah." She says, "Where was it?" He says, "On the arm." He shows on his body where it was. This does not sound like the language of a 10-year-old. What 10-year-old says physically and verbally? And Jack stutters through this part. He repeats physically and verbally hurt my mom twice, like he's rehearsing it from a script. And Jack is asked again, "How do you know this?" And he explains, "Because my mom told us." So this isn't his firsthand knowledge. We're learning from these interviews that the children are being fed these stories, the nightmare, the physical and verbal abuse. It's all coming from the suspect. Then you see back and forth where both of the kids are explaining that their knowledge is my mom told me. And they're talking about things that happened that night and things in the past. Tom says he was scared to death at the time because of Jason's martial arts background. So they're going to try to corroborate this. Tracy, Jason's sister, is asked if Jason was a MMA fighter or if he was part of the army. And she said, "No, that's ridiculous. They're just trying to destroy his character." Jason's friend Brendan said everyone loved Jason. He was charismatic. He had a loud voice. His sister never thought he was romantic until he met his first wife, Meg. And we see a picture of Jason and Meg. They were meant for each other. We see Jason and Meg at their wedding. We see Jack and Sarah when Sarah was born in the hospital, and it looks like the perfect family. One night, Max had an asthma attack. A friend walked into the hospital and heard Jason crying, begging her not to go. So now Jason is a single parent of 2 young children. He doesn't have time to grieve. So then we meet Molly, and we're told that she was in a relationship with someone. She had a miscarriage and then decided she needed to get away. So she got the au pair position in Ireland to take care of Jason's children. Grandpa Tom explains that her 2 younger brothers came along at a time when she was able to help her mom. So she had a lot of experience with younger kids. Everybody started to get the feeling that there was more to the relationship than Molly and Jason were letting on. We see 2.5 and 4.5-year-old Jack and Sarah. The kids started calling her mom early on. In emails, Jason made it clear that he wanted to slow the pace, though. He was worried about Jack and Sarah. He doesn't want to put them through anything further. He's afraid of them losing another mother if they don't work out. She pushes him toward the marriage, saying she won't be strung along. They got engaged, and ultimately, the new family decided to move to the United States. We see Sarah now, age 15. When she saw her house in the United States, she thought it was a mansion. It was so cool. Jack says they fit in right away. They started swimming, playing sport. A few weeks after the move, a wedding was already planned. And his family just wanted to be happy, and they traveled to the U.S. to support him. There was a lot planned. We see him at NASCAR races, at barbecues. We see everyone at a pub singing karaoke and dancing. They're having a great time before the wedding. And then we see Molly. She's in a beautiful white dress. One of Molly's friends told Jason's sister that she had gone to Ireland to be the godmother to Jason's children. She didn't indicate that she was an au pair. And Tracy finds that very strange. Why would somebody lie about that? I wonder if she's like a sociopath. Of course, investigators are going to look at her first. They always look at the significant other, and they start interviewing friends about Molly. So Molly made up stories about being pregnant with Sarah and fabricated stories about having a sister that died of cancer. And these simply were not true. People she was telling this to, some of them knew it wasn't true. But the reason that the investigator was worried is because Jason wasn't there to tell the story. It's only Molly now. And Molly, she's not credible. She's lying about things that people know she's lying about, right to their face. So how are they going to find out the story? They're going to have to investigate. They're going to have to figure the story out with the detail. She might be telling the story, but we got to corroborate that with blood splatter evidence, with injuries, with the autopsy report. So we do see emails from Jason to an attorney asking about step-parent adoption for Molly. Only 13 days after Jason died, Molly was in court fighting for custody over the children. Not even 2 weeks later, Molly was planning out a new life for the kids and telling them about new schools they were going to, new cars they would have. The family says that the children were just Irish citizens. They did not have dual citizenship, which makes me wonder if they were over on the appropriate visa. Courts find that the children should be returned to Ireland. It would be in their best interest. So Molly then explains it's self-defense. She's saying it's a justifiable killing. Jack didn't want to go to Ireland, was kicking and screaming. Sarah was crying. This must have been very traumatic for them. They've now lost both parents, their young children, and they're not even just being taken away from Molly. They're being taken to an entirely different country. We see them kissing and hugging her, presumably at the airport. They're looking at photos. She's crying, telling them that she loves them. Oh my God, these kids have been through so much. They had always known her as the mother. It's heartbreaking. That was the last time Molly saw them. Back in Ireland, this is a high-profile case. People were lining the streets to greet them when they came back. They had signs. The whole country was supporting them. Jason was taken back to Ireland to be laid to rest. A hearse drives by with flowers that say Daddy. He's buried beside his first wife. There's a picture of the two of them. Sarah had trouble trusting Tracy and David, her aunt and uncle. They were traumatized. She wanted to trust them, but she didn't know if she could. David decides it's best to put the kids in counseling, which I agree. This is a lot. The family cut off contact with Molly. And Molly and her father, Tom, are being investigated for Jason's murder. Molly tries to fly a plane over the kids' school. She's asking people on social media if they've seen the kids. She's obsessively posting on social media. She's trying to contact the kids. And the family says, we don't want them contacting Molly and Tom. They killed their father. So in the initial stages of the investigation, Wanda explains that they were told that Jason was drunk. And we see Grandpa Tom and Molly both substantiating that in the interviews. When the autopsy report comes back, we can definitively say this is not true. He had a little bit of alcohol, and he also had some of Molly's trazodone. So now they want to know, was he taking this consensually, or did Molly give this to him without his knowledge? Did she drug him with trazodone before taking his life? So for an FBI detective, this guy must be really cocky and really stupid. The fact that he is even talking to police, not a good idea. Back to the crime scene, we see chunks of hair covered in blood. Oh my gosh, So the detective explains self-defense. Self-defense is a justification for murder. So you killed somebody, but it makes it a justifiable killing it. So with self-defense, you can use reasonable and necessary force to thwart the threat. But when you're beating somebody's head into the ground, that appears to be beyond necessary. And you'll see how the narrative was tailored, what Molly and her father Tom were saying. They were making the narrative so that it might be self-defense. But he got the bat. He hit him in the head with the bat. Jason grabbed the bat. So Molly had to save her dad and hit him in the head with the brick. They're trying to explain these multiple hits because the dad knows, Grandpa Tom knows, that would not be self-defense. Now we're in 2016. Jack leaves a voicemail for Molly saying how much he loves his mom, keep fighting really hard. 9 months after Jason's death, they set up a live interview call with Jack from Ireland. He said he needed to come forward with the truth. Jack said that he was told to say that his dad was really abusive. Molly told him to say that, but he said it was a lie. Even in the first interview, he's saying that his aunt and uncle might take him away. So the judge now agrees with the prosecution statements at the Dragonfly House. They're inadmissible for hearsay. they're not based on their personal knowledge. They're based on what Molly told them. As the kids are away from Molly, they realize what she was telling them wasn't true. They want people to know the truth. They want people to know that their dad was a good person, not an abusive husband. Jack, with tears in his eyes, tells us about how the evidence shows they didn't stop hitting him. They just kept going at him. They killed him. Now they're looking for motive. They're going through the email exchanges between Jason and Molly. Jason says, "I've given you everything, including my heart and my kids." It's not enough for Molly. Really? Is that what you think? I feel like no matter what, I've done something wrong. So many red flags. Somebody comes to Facebook Messenger to tell Tracy that they'd seen Jason and Molly fighting the Friday before Jason died, and that Molly was being verbally abusive, calling him fat, telling him that the reason he was so big is because he probably took all the nutrition from his twin. Now, the brother explains he was under the impression Jason was ready to move on, and he was going to leave rather quickly. So now the motive is starting to come together. We also find out Molly was a former model. We see her sitting in the interview room in present day again, and she's saying, "I didn't commit a crime." Tom said if he didn't intervene, she would die. So he was going to save her life from Jason or die trying. I love this prosecutor's opening statement. "Do you know what malice feels like?" He's slamming the bat down onto the table. "Do you know what malice looks like?" And they're showing the crime scene photos. That is a good opening. Good job, prosecutor. I like it. We have got a litigator in the house. Molly says that she did believe in the system and that the truth would matter. This feels like she's really playing victim. She's like, well, maybe if I didn't scream, maybe he would have strangled me and I would have been okay. What a weird statement. You're saying that you're innocent. I'm wondering, was she convicted at this point? Sarah now considers her aunt and uncle her mom and dad, and her cousins her brothers, and she's settling into her family. We see them in an amusement park. They're about to do like a drop kind of roller coaster that goes straight down. They have a pool. They're doing flips into the pool. So Jack explains everything was going well, and visibly it is. But then he says things took a turn for the worst and it all went wrong again. So Molly's family asked an attorney to interview the record to grant a new trial. This attorney finds the children were interviewed immediately the next day, and they're describing their dad as controlling and abusive. Then we see medical records come up where Jason was saying that he found himself getting angry easily just 2 weeks before his death. A few weeks before Dad died, Grandma came up with this peacock word. The code word was peacock. She was worried about what was going on in the house. She hid the phone number from Jason and pieces on the bottom of dolls. We're seeing clips from the interview house again. They could say Molly had a brick because they were going to paint it, and Molly, interviewed separately, also says that's what they were going to do. The defense attorneys are stunned that the children's statements were completely excluded. Molly and Tom are saying Jason's family brainwashed the kids. The difference is that the first interview was in a controlled environment, but the second one was not. So Molly had a 20 to 25 year sentence before this retrial. The defense is convinced she didn't do this. Now we're at 3 years after Jason's death. We see the North Carolina Court of Appeals, see the justices sitting on the board. They argue that the trial court's conclusions were clearly erroneous in excluding this evidence. So they take the appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules that the children's statements do get to come in. Tom and Molly are released on bail, awaiting the next trial. We see Sarah crying on a video and saying it's not fair that they're out there walking, and there's no trial date set. Jack agrees with Sarah. It's hard to see them released, knowing that they took the life of his dad and seeing them hug their parents and children. It's hard. Molly claims she was domestically abused. She said everything appeared picture perfect, but things weren't great. He questioned her about what she wore, what she was doing. He was controlling every detail of her life. He expected her to listen to everything he said and to obey. We see pictures of bruises on her neck, on her arms. Tom explained his daughter was a shell of what she had been. Molly says not letting her adopt the children was a way to control her. He would say, it's just a piece of paper. Why does it matter? But he was hanging it out in front of her like a carrot, just dangling it. She didn't want to leave, though, because she didn't want to lose the kids. She said she could never leave them. So a friend that was a family law attorney in her neighborhood recommended that she keep a record of the domestic violence and also a record of how she mothered the children. So she started making recordings. She put voice-activated recording devices around the house. Her plan was to control the situation until the kids were old enough where they'd have a say in court. She said sometimes she was worried she would die before then, but she never considered that Jason would die before the kids had a chance to have a say in court. It's a tale of two men. Jason is being controlling. He's telling her that she doesn't have the right to act like the mother. Jason's threatening to take the kids from her. The kids in the back are saying, I'll eat the pancakes. Stop arguing. Stop slamming your chair. Stop fighting. I knew they were going to say this. The state says Molly was the only person that knew this recording was being made. So she knew that Jason didn't know he was being recorded. She knew she needed to behave herself. She knew that she needed proof for family court to get custody of the kids. So there's motive. But of course, her knowing that she's recorded, she's going to act in a way that court would approve of. Now, Jack tells us that his dad said they were going to move to Ireland, and he told him without mommy. So the kids were told this before the death. Tom and Jerry had plans with his boss that night, and those were canceled at the last minute so he could drive to North Carolina. Now, he says he just went out to North Carolina on a whim. It was a beautiful 4-hour drive for social people. Let's go see our daughter and the kids. But he did cancel a meeting with his boss. Now we're in 2022, 7 years after Jason's death. We're going to have a retrial on the same charges in 2022. Tracy wrote a book called My Brother Jason. She's been fighting for justice for her brother. She thinks she's going to be called by the defense to say that she brainwashed Jack and Sarah. David says, I would never tell the children to lie. That's not in me. Jack and Sarah packing their bags to go back to the United States for a pretrial hearing. It's going to be the first time they saw the Martins since 2015. You see him at Charlotte International Airport. I know that airport. I've been there quite a few times. Molly looks like she's wearing a bathrobe into the courtroom. I'm sorry. That is a gray bathrobe. So at the pretrial hearing, they're going to schedule a trial. Now, Jack says if he gets to testify, he wants to explain what really happened in the house. Sarah echoes that sentiment. What did they see? Sarah says on the outside, the house was sunshine and rainbows, but on the inside, it was dark and heavy. They explained that Molly took pictures of their biological mother and hid them once they moved to the United States, where they used to have them in their rooms. That's horrible. Jack once told his dad he loved him before he left for a work trip, and she destroyed his room, flipping his furniture, pulling out his clothes. One time, Molly started questioning Sarah, why do you want to spend time with your dad, when Sarah wanted her dad, who was the coach, to take her to t-ball. Jack says he was constantly fighting for her love. Jack is saying that Molly took Sarah away from their dad constantly, and she never got a good relationship with their father. But he was closer to their father, and he says at the age that he could choose, he would have chose his father. But he thinks that Sarah would have chosen Molly. So some of Molly's friends have heard Jason in fits of anger, threatening her, or witnessed his controlling behavior. So one of the women says that Molly told her that Jason strangled her in the bedroom. This is hearsay. Molly is telling somebody that Jason strangled her, just like Molly told the kids that their dad was verbally and physically abusive. This is not credible. Molly lies. She also said that Molly was afraid Jason strangled his first wife. Molly was also saying she birthed Sarah. Why does this defense attorney care what she's saying? We get what she's saying. We need proof outside of her. Tom talks about when he met Mag's parents. They'd come over to visit the grandchildren. He wasn't a very educated guy, but Tom says that he thought that Jason killed his daughter. Now, the autopsy report said that Meigs died from an asthma attack. Having somebody review the report, they believed she died from strangulation. Mag's sister, Catherine, said she was there that night and she heard Mags in the kitchen saying, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. The DA said that's what happens. The victims will survive the strangulation and die within an hour. And the report says there's no evidence of any trauma on the outside of her neck, but the expert is saying it's not the ones on the outside that would take her, it would be the ones on the inside. We see a nail dig on the back of Molly's ear. God, this defense attorney's good. So first he points out the scratch mark behind her ear, which an expert says is a scratch mark from a nail that would be consistent with manual strangulation. The expert also says that if she lost consciousness, there would be a urine stain in the pajamas she had. So they go to re-examine the evidence, and sure enough, they do find a urine stain. State is worried about testimony coming in about the first wife. There's not evidence that Jason strangled her, but there's evidence that could suggest she was strangled. There could be an inference that it was Jason. They don't want that to come in. So they start plea negotiations. They accepted a no contest plea of voluntary manslaughter. A no contest plea is where you're saying, I'm going to take this plea, but I'm not saying I'm guilty. I'm going to do it because I understand if I go to trial, there could be consequences. It's always a risk with the jury. I do want to take a plea. Voluntary manslaughter. is a reduced charge from intentional homicide so that we can resolve this case. It's also called an Alford plea. Tom did plead guilty to the charges. Molly said she was ready to go to trial and she didn't want to take a plea, but her dad possibly going to jail, she couldn't let that hang over her. There should be two separate pleas, though. So the prosecutors are saying there's one thing in common with both deaths. Sarah's mother was feeding her the night that she died, and Sarah woke up and her dad got angry the night that he died. Kids are angry. They know that their dad didn't kill their mom. Their Aunt Catherine was the only one that was there the night that Mags passed away. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning. Jason knocked on the bathroom door and said that Maggie isn't well. She's having a bad asthma attack. She's in the kitchen. She was holding her chest with an inhaler in her hand. She watched Jason try to do everything to save her. So Mag's parents completely support Jason, and Mag's dad has died before we go to trial, but he did leave a statement was saying what Tom Martin said that he told them about Mags being murdered was categorically untrue. Now we're in the car that we were in at the start of the show. They're listening to Chicken Fried. Okay, everybody's crying. Me too. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Uncle David said, crying's over, head back, shoulders back. Fuck these people. Yes, sir. Oh my God. I dry up my eyes. I like Uncle David. We heard Jack and Sarah giving their victim impact statement. They got 51 to 74 months on resentencing. So they're going back to jail. Well, it was so hard for Molly. She's saying that the kids hurt her. And her grandma's like, how do they remember? Well, they were 8 and 10. I can remember things from when I was 8 and 10. Now, the court has ordered that Molly can't have any contact with the kids. She says she's certainly not the mother now, but she'll always think of herself as being their mother. The kids say they loved Molly, but that doesn't mean she was a good mother. They don't hate her. They just don't want her to have any power over them anymore. Jack says, even though I've been around my dad's family and friends, I've been left to come up to my own decisions. I've not been influenced by them. Which even in the interview room at the Dragonfly house, he was saying that his mom told him what to say. They said that they're going to go and live the life that their dad wanted them to live. Well, both of these things could be true. She could be abusive and manipulative. He could have been abusive. I think that even though I'm so defense-minded, I think they probably got it right with voluntary manslaughter. I don't know that this was premeditated. There would be a lot cleaner ways to do this than beating somebody with a bat and a brick. That crime scene was gruesome. Self-defense, again, that's reasonable and necessary force. I don't think that's what we saw here. It did look excessive. It should have been just enough to stop the threat. And I don't think it was premeditated. And it's possible that Jason could have choked her. But just because one thing is true doesn't mean the other one is. But I do believe the kid. They were honest from the get-go. They explained that the stories that they were telling to the interviewer, they were told to from their mom. Even the friends that are talking about the relationship and how she had been strangled in the bedroom before, they heard that from Molly. We do see some bruises. There could have been violence, but that doesn't mean that there could not have been a murder. Again, self-defense is a justifiable death. You can only use reasonable and necessary force, and this was excessive. The blood splatter showed he was being hit as he was going down. Now, you might hear, especially in domestic violence cases, you might hear somebody say that they were just living in terror and they were just thinking, I need to get away from this threat. I'm just so scared. And that's an interesting argument. And sometimes a jury might find that that's what they decide, but that's not what the law says. I don't think that Molly or her dad cared whether or not Jason lived or died that night. I don't think that the attack was purely to stop him from attacking her. I think it started and she just went off with it. She stopped giving a fuck. And she's not credible. She lied about having these kids as her own children to people who knew that they were not her own children. She lied about birthing them. I mean, there were some pretty wild allegations of the story she made up. The kids are the most credible ones here. They have been honest the whole time. At the beginning, they were saying that their dad was abusive, but they were honestly saying that that's because their mom told them that Molly told them that. And she's put fear into them. She said that they were going to try to have the aunt and uncle take them away. So no wonder they didn't trust the aunt and uncle when they went over to Ireland. That was gruesome. Even as defense-minded as I am, I think they got it right. Voluntary manslaughter. In my state, it would be something like second-degree murder. I don't think it was premeditated. Premeditation only takes a second, but I think that it started potentially even as self-defense, but then it just went beyond that. Neither she or her father even cared. And also with her dad having worked for the FBI, he knows the system really well. He knows how to phrase things to the police. And you know what? Their stories were matching. So does that show premeditation or does that show honesty? Well, we know that their stories were matching and they weren't honest because they both said he was intoxicated and he wasn't. So maybe they did premeditate it. Maybe they pre-planned it. I don't know that the evidence is strong enough. It could suggest that, but you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So yeah, that was a good one. It was a tearjerker. There were parts that I couldn't even watch, but that was a good true crime movie. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe. Thank you, Channel Surfers, for listening. We'll see you later. Bye.